and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. We have a great show for you this week. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, is Logan. How are you today, Logan?
Jordan, we made it back. We have finally resurfaced. Jordan, we have some cats trying to kill each other. 1 second. I'm telling you, today's chaos, guys. If Logan makes it through today's show, this will be a miracle. Like I was saying before I got thrown off, Jordan, we had some really concerned fans of the podcast texting me, when is Stateside returning?
Did we? Did we
Yeah,
really?
Andrew Pater texted me and said, "Hey man, I'm just wondering when Stateside returning." I was like,
He just wanted to know when we were going to share our thoughts on Chicago's season being underwhelming. Newsflash, Andrew, we've been saying that all season.
at least Jordan has.
Yes. But no. It's been. Yeah. Last week I wasn't feeling well. This week on Monday you weren't feeling well, so we're recording on Tuesday instead. Which means this probably is going to be listened to Wednesday more likely than any of the other days. Which is fine. I think last week we kind of scratched it. Really, we were like, well, there were 6 games. Right? There were 6 games. There was one U.S. game, and then the other U.S. game was that Tuesday night. And then, of course, everything started happening on Tuesday onward, right? So I'm kind of happy we didn't record last week. Give us some rest, right? As we get ready for the rest of the season. Because unlike teams that were knocked out of League's Cup, we have not had any time to rest. So for us, it's been, go. And Tuesday night is when they finally announced. It's going to be a nightmare to edit this episode. Okay. Tuesday, right before the friendly, they announced Mauricio Pochettino is the official manager of the U.S. men's national team. And Friday, they had a press conference. We have some quotes from it that I want to share, but I guess let's just get to it. The friendly was underwhelming. They drew with New Zealand. That is not great. And I'm actually glad they announced it before the friendly, because I was just kind of like, the friendly sucks. Like I didn't care about it at all. I didn't even really watch the friendly. I said, what am I going to gain from it? We already know the team is underperforming. Pochettino's coming in. This game means nothing at all to the U.S. men's national team, because I bet Pochettino is also not making all of his decisions based off of that one friendly. So for me, it was a pointless friendly, especially once they announced Pochettino before the game. I think it was great that they did it before the game, because it would have felt like we were able to kind of put aside that friendly and be like, you know what, who even cares at this point? And then instead of then after the friendly where you're like, well, we need some good news after that performance, announce Pochettino. Like it made it seem like it wasn't a reactionary thing. So for me, it was great. None of both of these friendlies were awful. I am so thankful to be turning the page. We got our manager. I wanted him by the September friendlies. We got him by the end of the September friendlies, Logan. What are your thoughts on the official announcement of Pochettino to U.S. men's national team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying that this is the biggest signing that the U.S. men's national team's ever had, and we knew that going into it. Jordan, you and I talked about the reports and the linkage to Pochettino, and you know his history a lot better because he was a coach of your club, your Chelsea club over there in England.
You know
Following
what, though?
along with him.
I remember, Logan, a conversation we had on the old Stoppage Time soccer show.
Oh.
Before he moved to PSG, I think it was, I believe I mentioned, like, why isn't Pochettino getting a shot at like a Chelsea job or something? Like, I would take
Yeah.
Pochettino. And
Yep.
here he is now with the U.S. men's national team. So I've liked Pochettino. he finally started turning Chelsea around, and I wasn't really quite sure what his issues were, what the other issues were, and it turned out to be just Chelsea's a cluster F anyway, so you can kind of just write off his time there, I think, and we can go into this, excited.
Yeah. Matt Crocker, I believe it was, worked with him at Southampton when Pochettino was there. Most people don't know he was there 2013 to 2014. Mauricio, is it Mauricio? Yeah, that's his first
Maurizio,
name.
yeah,
Mauricio.
Mauricio
How do you pronounce it?
Pochettino.
Maurizio. Only because I've ever called him Pochettino or Poach. Pochettino, I think Jordan is probably one of the best hires that they could have made, honestly. I was reading an article on ESPN that was talking about all of the people. It was very interesting, Jordan. I'll have to send it to you. I don't know if you read it, but it was like how Crocker and um, United States Federation approached this situation. They knew very early on that Greg was done after that Copa loss. They knew that they said they were going to give it time, but they said they knew pretty well on that they were going to start to consider other options. Um,
Just
it
like I thought, we mentioned it, right? Like there
yeah,
was no world in which they were going to be fine with that result, and just because they don't announce it right away doesn't mean that they aren't making the move.
right. So again, they were talking about it how Crocker and them in U.S. Federation put three buckets out there, right? They had the bucket of people that they talked to before, where they felt like they had a good relationship with agent and coach, and they were going to be able to talk about the possibility of coming to U.S. men's national team. They had a stretch bucket, which they knew there were good targets out there that they could probably convinced to come to the U.S. men's national team, but it was a little bit of a stretch. And then they had the extreme stretch, which really there was only one person in the extreme, from what the article said, and that was Jurgen Klopp. And they said they had two conversations with Jurgen. He said that it was an interesting offer, it was an interesting opportunity, but with his situation, personal situation, he just felt like it wasn't going to be something that he could do, which I totally get. He took a step back from the game because mentally he wanted to be with his family and he wanted a break from that. And mental health is so important, and we focus so much on that to then have people come out and say, no, put it on back burner. You can't put mental health on the back burner. So, but it was interesting to kind of hear that process, Jordan, how they got to Pochettino and how they saw him as kind of a stretch. And they landed their guy. Like, he ticks all the boxes that U.S. men's national team was trying to tick. And so, I mean, I'm thrilled. I don't think that there's anybody else out there that I would have considered higher than Pochettino.
Here's a quote from Pochettino from Jeff Carlisle. This was on the 10th, so last Tuesday after or before the friendly, but before his press conference. The decision to join U.S. Soccer wasn't just about football for me. It's about the journey that this team and this country are on, the energy, the passion, and the hunger to achieve something truly historic here. Those are the things that inspired me. I, all these people that wanted to say this job was not, sexy or interesting for people, attractive, are just we're totally wrong. And I tell you, here's a quote from Friday that really gives me everything that I want. And this could just be speak, right? Like, we'll see how it is when he actually takes over, right? But here you go. There is no friendly game. When I was with Argentina, World Cup, Copa America, or friendly, it was always the same. Go and show you're the best and win the game for your country with pride, because that's what it means to be competitive. That's what's missing. There is watch these players in the friendly, right? Any of the friendlies, and even some of the against the lower CONCACAF opponents. And a lot of times it doesn't look like that spirit is there. The American spirit that we were used to seeing when Landon and Clint and, all of these players, Brian McBride, were on the field. We don't see that anymore. Usually you see it from maybe one or two players, but like the whole team used to be like that, and we would overperform. 2009 in the Confederations Cup final after beating Spain and going up against Brazil, leading against Brazil. 2002, almost getting to a semifinal, a handball away, missed call against Germany, and the USA would be in the semifinals of the World Cup. We always overperformed until we didn't, right? When we failed to make the World Cup in 2018. We did not over or underperform in 2022. It was exactly what we thought we were going to get, a round of 16 exit. And now it's time to push it forward. We did underperform in Copa America. Okay. But now we are trying to move forward. And just that mentality, if Pochettino brings that mentality, and the players are now on notice, they have to perform. They have to perform. He has no bias, I would say, Pochettino. He does not have a player. I mean, maybe he's worked with some of them in the past. I don't think so, actually, right? Because Chelsea, Pulisic was already gone. So he comes in blank slate. He's going to live in the USA, he said, but he's also going to be traveling all around Europe still, watching games. And these players now know they have to perform, and we're starting to see it. McKennie with a goal today, Pulisic with a goal today, right? Like, these players are on notice. They have to get it done in order to prove that they belong on the field under Mauricio Pochettino. So that quote really sold it to me, because I hope we bring that style back. It's just weird that it would take a non-American to bring back the American spirit, but it is what it is.
Yeah, American spirit has gone to crap. There's no such thing. But
Wait
yeah,
till
no,
November.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no, seriously though, like I just feel like uh, I feel like there wasn't any accountability with this team, Jordan. And you and I talked about this relentlessly. I think this stems back all the way back to when you and I were talking about the Weston McKennie drama, right? And then it gets into Gio Reyna and the drama surrounding the World Cup with Claudio Reyna, and then you have it stem over, Jordan, into more issues like with Timothy Weah and some issues there where I think Timothy cost you a game there in Copa, where it just seemed like players were allowed to do what the players wanted. And Greg is not, from every account that I've ever heard, Greg is not the disciplinary. He's not the coach that's going to yell and scream and kick and throw some fits. And sometimes you need that. Like, I'm not saying throw some tantrums just to get angry, but you need some accountability, right? I mean, these are grown men. I don't think there was just ever any accountability, and it felt like at times that Greg was trying to manipulate players to play the way that he wanted to play, and some players were out of grace with Greg, and it did seem like personal beliefs were getting in the way, and I don't know. I just felt like Greg was too connected to some of the guys and not others, and he had some kind of loyalty to other players that he didn't have with a trust with other players. And once you get into Greg's goodwill, it seemed like he was willing to put his neck on the line for you. And I just think with a national team coach, you got to be pretty cutthroat. I mean, you got to make some really difficult decisions. And I don't think Greg was going to make any difficult decisions. I think Maurizio is going to make some very difficult decisions, having the Argentine blood, having the passion for soccer or football. He even said it. He said, with my roots, I'm hoping that I can influence some of these Latin American players who have dual citizenship to also play for the United States. He talked about his relationship with Emma Hayes, and in that situation where he said, we want to be like them. That's the coolest part, was that he was willing to use the women's team as an example because of his relationship with Emma Hayes. And he was like, that's what we're aspiring to be. Like, we don't have to look beyond our federation.
That's it. How many times, Logan, have we heard players like coaches like Jurgen or Greg say, we're going to change the way the world looks at American soccer? But what does Mauricio Pochettino say? He says, no, we want to be like American soccer, but we want to be like them.
Yeah.
The women that win 4 World Cups, we have that experience here in our country. Let's use it. I
Right.
think that's really amazing that he said that as somebody that comes from outside of the country.
Right. And not in the women's game ever. He's not coached in the women's game. He's not, his direct link to the women's side of soccer is because of Emma Hayes and their relationship. And he's talked about it. He said, we've had a relationship dating back to our time when we were both at Chelsea. And he said, we've also had that relationship where, it's cool to have that because Emma Hayes is one of the best coaches in this world,
I think he
men's
called
and
her
women's.
the best coach,
Yeah, I think he
actually.
did too. Yeah, I think he did. Which is wild to me that we have the best women's coach. Could we possibly now have arguably one of the best men's coaches? Because Pochettino, people will continue to discount him for different
He
things because
overperformed with that
but
Spurs
he
team
did.
consistently. As
Yes,
soon as he left, they fell apart.
yes,
I mean, that's just what it is.
right. And then people will say, well, he was blessed with PSG. I'm like, well, yeah, but that happens to everybody. I mean, right?
Yeah.
That's going to happen with most good coaches. You could argue the same for
Pep is blessed when
Tuchel.
he went to Barcelona and
Yes,
Bayern Munich and
right.
Manchester City, right?
Yes, right. He was blessed with those players. Is Pep a good coach? Yeah, he's a great coach. But yes, he's got the means. He's always had the good talent. He's always had the superstars, right? But I think, right, Jordan, that Pochettino. Another thing too is that he's not somebody that players dislike either. Like players like Maurizio. So I think you're a win-win here, right? You in this generation you need a coach that is more player friendly. That's just kind of how the way things have gone. But Maurizio has never had a problem relating to his players. So I think that this could be, again, arguably the biggest it's the biggest signing that happened. But I think this is going to change the landscape of American soccer.
Here's another. Jeff Carlisle asked Pochettino, how was he going to adapt his methods considering how little there is time before
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
the World Cup? And Pochettino says he feels the opposite, and that they actually have enough time, and that we cannot make excuses. I mean, that's perfect. We sat here on this show and we were counting like, oh my god, like if he gets in at September, we only have this time. If he gets in January, we only have this time. But for him to be that confident, like, no, I have enough time to look at
Yeah.
the players and integrate myself with the players and get them playing is great. And I think that shows me that it's not like he's going to force a style. He
Right.
might, right? Like I feel like every coach does. But I mean, like, I think he might just try to find the players that fit the way that he wants them to fit, or he might look at what players are available and says, I need to play this way
Right.
and get them in there. But he says there's enough time. He is a coach that would know if there's enough time. So I like that he's already not having an excuse. He put that on himself right now. We have a prepare for 2026. And he also mentioned what? I have another quote. I got to find it from here. He had another quote that I thought was something that Jurgen took the opposite approach with. Um, okay. This is part of the same quote. Okay. I believe there is enough time. We can't use this as an excuse. We have to believe we can win the World Cup. We need players that are thinking big. And I remember Jurgen got under heavy fire for saying, we're not going to win the World Cup. And I think it's fine for fans to not have that. Like, I think it's fine for fans to be like, we're not going to win. Right? Because, like, obviously, there's only been how many countries that have won a World Cup? I think 8. Yeah, it's uphill. But the players and the coach have to believe that they can win. Right? And the fans believe it too, because we came up with a whole chant. I believe that we will win. But yeah, I mean, like, reading those type of quotes is just like, all right, you're saying the right stuff. It feels like a new era. And at that point, I'm just ready for the next window. And I think I needed a break from those friendlies in September because we looked awful. And I'm like, all right, at least now we have the coach. The next window in October is going to be very, very is it October or November? It's going to be very interesting. I think November. I don't know. There's one like every month.
I think there's some in October. There's a break, I think, in October where I think that they play. Let me check because I think when I looked at this, it was like it's early on in October, I believe. October. What the heck did I just pull up?
Because I know there's a built-in thing for
There we
the
go. Got it.
playoffs.
Oh shoot, I forgot they do. Okay, they play the Mexican national team on October 15th.
That's right. That's right. So, okay, a month.
Yeah, so they've got them in October, and then yeah, it looks like they're good all the way through October playing and November because they're not even on the November stuff either. So I think it's just the October one, and then I don't think they play in December. Maybe they do, but I don't see
We'll
anything.
have January camp. I really want to see how he
Yeah,
does with January camp because
right.
that's one where the clubs won't usually release the
Camp
players. So is
Cupcake,
he?
baby.
Yeah, is he still going to do Camp Cupcake with the MLS players or what? Like, I think he will because I think he'll take as many opportunities as he can to meet every player in the pool pretty much and see what he's got.
Yeah. But he really did say all the right things. I love this where he said, we watched them play. We watched them play with different clubs. He said, but it's not really the idea that we want the players that we're going to force them into buying into this idea. It's more about how can I get this idea to fit my players, kind of thing. Like it's much
So that's
more
pretty much what I said, right? Like,
right,
yeah, fit the players
right.
to the thing. Yeah,
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 I love that because, like you said, like I think what Greg tried to fit what is it a square peg in a round circle or a
yeah,
circle
yeah.
peg, whatever you can mix them up. But he did it at times. Jordan just felt like he tried to force his ideas on Berhalter ball, and Berhalter ball was possession based. U.S. can't
With
play
little scoring,
possession
with
based,
little
right?
scoring.
Yes, that's the thing. When you play possession based, you need to have goal scorers. I think this team is much more threatening in the counter. I think that their speed and their youth and their defensive abilities. I think we forget about that. Some of our attacking players are pretty good defenders. And high energy, like that's what you want. So I'm hoping Poach does more of that, where it's a lot of high energy. Like use the youth. Like we could wear teams out if we do this correctly. So yeah, I love that. I love that you brought that up because I think there were so many good quotes. Like I just like thinking to all the things that he said. He's so good. Whereas Greg seemed to have no idea. Greg just seemed to
I
be like,
think there was no quotes that I saw go around that people were like, "Huh?" Like
yeah,
I don't think I saw one quote that people were like, "What?" Which is good
yeah,
because we have a picky fan base. We do. So it looks like that was a perfect press conference. Now we wait for October and see how he does with the first day. Don't overreact or underreact on the Mexico result in October, but I'll just be curious to see his roster, and we'll talk about it on here.
do you I guess the question would be do you see that maybe there's some players that fall out of favor because of him? Like do you feel like there might be some players that maybe he's not
I
as
don't
focused on?
I don't know if right away.
Yeah.
I think he would call in most of the same people we probably saw recently, and it'll just be him being like, "Now I want to get to know them. I want to talk to them. I may, or he's probably watched film even before he took the job, and he probably has ideas of, I can get this player doing that. I can get this player doing that. So I don't know if there'd be any players off the top of my head that are like immediately sidelined. Um, but because I just feel like he'll want to get to know them first and talk to them and like get them in and say, all right, let's see what you got. And then maybe the next window, he's calling in a couple different people, that he's like, all right, let's see what you got. Right. And then January, he's calling in a whole bunch of players and just being like, all right, show me what you got. And then,
Yeah.
by next summer, when we're looking at Gold Cup, that's probably going to be his first, like, I would guess, best roster he will have had, and see how, that's test one, right? Because that's a year out at that point. So that'd be the big test. Which Gold Cup you should be winning, but there are other high CONCACAF level teams that can win. Canada has a good chance with how Jesse Marsh has them playing right now. Mexico is always a threat when it comes to Gold Cup, and Jamaica is always randomly a threat, I feel like, in Panama. So it'll be curious to see how he does with the Gold Cup in the summer. But I think until then, you're just going to see him kind of feeling it out, getting people in, talking to them, seeing how it goes. And I don't know if we'll really know his best roster until Gold Cup.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. He could call in like the same players every single time. Who knows?
His first calls to Landon Donovan. We're so sorry that Jurgen Klinsmann did not.
Yes.
Bring
You
you.
want to come play in the Gold Cup? Let's make it up to you.
Oh man, I like this quote though. I don't see weakness because I don't like to talk about weakness. That's weird. If we are seeing some weaknesses, we're never going to try to explain it, even to them. We always think positive around here. We have positive players, and that's what we're going to, or talented players, and we're always going to be positive. I like that.
Yeah, I think that might be one where people would be like, "What?" But right now, it's the honeymoon phase. Because I understand what he's trying to say there. I think he's trying to say, like, if you focus too much on the negatives, it's going to kind of eat at you a bit, and you're only going to focus on the negatives. So focus on what you're doing well and try to get better at what you're maybe not doing as well is probably what he is trying to say there. But yeah,
and that's the other thing. He's obviously second language is English, so it doesn't directly translate at times, I think, and people try to jump on that, and it's like, okay, you got to give them grace. Like, it is not their first language, it is not their native language. Like, what I read that was like, no, we're going to be positive, and we're not going to point out weaknesses because that does you no good to tear somebody down. And I've always believed that in coaching. It does you no good to. It's good to go, yeah, we can work on that. We can get better at that, but never to be like, you suck at that. Like, so this has got to get better.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of coaches out there like that still.
Yeah, it's probably all about phrasing, like not calling them weaknesses, calling them strengths I'm not as good at.
Yeah, right. Your next job interview. So Joe.
What weakness do you have? I don't have any weaknesses. I have strengths that I'm not as good at.
Right. I don't see them as weaknesses. I don't. I see them as opportunities.
Potential strength is what I see here.
Yeah. So if you're going to a job interview, listener, and you're listening to this,
try that out. See how let us know how it goes. Your mileage may vary on that one. Okay. Before we get into the results, Logan, I have some fun things to dive into with you here. We have the yearly list of top 25 most popular MLS jerseys.
You're so lucky I didn't look at this earlier when I was reading.
That you didn't?
Yeah, I almost did.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you. Okay. Some of these names may shock you. Number 6 may shock you, right? If I'm doing clickbait here. All right. I'll give you the 2 layups first. Number 1 and number 2. What would your guess be? Number 1 and number 2.
Messi and Suarez.
Exactly. In that order.
Yes.
Could you imagine if I was like, actually, Suarez, number 1?
That'd be hilarious if you're like, actually, it's Dax McCarty.
Yeah. It's probably his last season, I think he said, right? So, yeah, it makes sense. Okay. Number 3. What do you got? I'll say West Coast team here. I'll give you a little clue. West Coast team.
I feel like it's got to be LA.
It's one of the LAs.
Ricky Pooch.
No, he's number 7.
Dang. Okay, well then, Denny Bouanga?
Yes, Denny Bouanga, number 3.
Yes.
Number 4 would probably like to eat some Skyline chili.
Oh, okay, so we're going with Lucho Acosta there.
Yes. And number 5 would definitely not like to eat Skyline chili because hell is real.
Oh, so we're going Cucho Hernandez.
Yes. Okay, that's number 6 would shock you is what I said. What do you think number 6 is? And why it would be shocking is because I'll let you guess first, then I'll tell you why it might be shocking if you don't get it right.
Well, you said it's going to be shocking. It's going to be somebody random, I feel. I feel like, I don't know, why do I feel like a Joseph Martinez jersey?
No, so it might be shocking because he's barely played any games and just entered the league.
Olivier Giroud?
Yes.
No way. Are you serious?
Yes, he's number 6.
How is that
I don't
possible?
know. It is shocking. I literally looked at this list
Okay,
and
I
was
need to
like,
look at this
"Oh my
list now.
god!"
I'm glad I didn't look at it, Jordan, because I was like, I was like, Jordan. It seems like he might ask me these, so I'm not even going to look at them. But I was like, I was, I was, I was done reading the U.S. article, and I was like, all right, I need to number 6.
Yeah,
I
Olivier
would
Giroud.
say, okay, number 12 shocks me a lot. No,
Yeah,
number
yeah.
12
Okay,
shocks
so
me a lot.
7 is Ricky Puig, 8 is Hani Mukhtar, and then you have a double tap of Seattle, Jordan Morris and Pedro de la Vega, and then Sergio Busquets all the way at 11. But number
Right.
12,
It
dear
shocks me.
listener, is Jacob Schaffelberg.
That one's like,
It
what?
is a little shocking, but I like it. I
I do,
like it.
yeah.
Edward Lurin from St. Louis on 13 with João Klaus, number 14. Jordi Alba rounding out the top 15. Then we have, four-time MLS Cup champ Darlington Nagbe at 16. Emil Forsberg at 17. Sebastian Driussi at 18. And then representing the capital of our nation, Christian Benteke at number 19. That's almost as many goals as he has. Brian Gutierrez from Chicago Fire. That's Andrew bought all of those to bump him into the 20th
That's a
spot.
lot of money, too. Nice job, Andrew.
21, Jao Paulo. 22, J.R.R. John Tolkien is number 22 from the Red Bulls. 23, Daniel Gazdag. I'm actually shocked that Philly has a representative in the 25. Raul Ruidiaz in the 24th spot with Diego Chara in spot 25. All right, so some fun facts. This is from MLSsoccer.com too. I didn't pull out these fun facts myself. But Inter Miami and Seattle lead all MLS clubs with 4 players on the top 25 list. 4 of these 25 are first-year MLS players: Pedro de la Vega, Emil Forsberg, Olivier Giroud, and Luis Suarez. 6 players are age 25 or younger: Pedro de la Vega, who's 23, Gutierrez is 21, Chucho is 25, Ricky Puig is 25, Schaffelberg is 24, and John Tolkien is 22. 3 players have featured for the U.S. men's national team: Jordan Morris, Darlington Nagbe, and John Tolkien. 3 players have won a FIFA World Cup: Sergio Busquets, Olivier Giroud, and Lionel Messi. 8 players have played in a World Cup match: Jordi Alba, Busquets, Forsberg, Giroud, Messi, Morris, Ruidiaz, and Luis Suarez. 14 countries and 14 MLS clubs are represented in this top 25 list. Wow. That's pretty cool. I think it's very weird that the way that they wrote this down is they spelled out 14 for 14 countries, but then used the numeral 14 for MLS clubs.
Yeah, and then also use 25 or younger. Like when you're using AP style, you don't do that. You don't switch.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Especially in the
don't.
same line
Yeah, you
like
don't
that,
switch. One through, I think it's 1 through 10 are well, you spell them out, and then once you hit 10, that's when you start. Once you get in double digits, you can start to put the number.
Mainly though, just be consistent. Like, don't
Yeah,
have
don't switch between
14
MLA and
countries and then 14 MLS clubs being
yeah,
2 separate things in the same line.
yeah. I do
Yeah.
I do find it interesting though, Jordan. That like you can tell what the big fan bases are. Like you can obviously tell that Seattle still has a massive fan base because East Coast people are not typically staying up to watch the Sounders play. So it's a big Western group. The
Some don't.
Canadian team, yeah. Well,
Some
Jordan
don't.
does. The Canadian faithful. I think Jordan is probably a big influence on the Schaffelberg jersey. Like
That's what I was thinking too. Actually, I think he's played pretty darn well for
he
Canada
has,
too.
yeah,
So
he's
I
been one of
think
those
that's
players.
helped.
Yeah,
It's like how we would buy a Pulisic jersey. I'm sure
that's true.
Canadians are buying a
Yeah.
Schaffelberg.
Yeah. Yeah, I would probably buy every single one of our clubs unless it was somehow our player ended up on Manchester United.
If we had money, yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
We are also available for people to send us free jerseys.
Yes, we
I
are.
am a size XL. All right.
Same.
So it doesn't even matter who you send it to.
Right. Just send it to Stateside Soccer Show and see who it goes to.
You'll see us wearing it. Okay.
It'll probably be you because you're the billing address.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that was a fun list. I think it's really interesting that Pedro de la Vega was so high on the list.
Yeah.
Because I feel
Hasn't
like
played.
most of that would have had to been preseason because
Yep.
he got injured pretty early on.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like I felt like again, that's why I think the Sounders fan base is just
Yeah.
so massive. But again,
Yeah, they
they've
had
been
four
around the
names.
longest to
Four
they've been
names.
around long. So I think they've been around the longest to acquire all those fans. But
And well, the thing is too, like Miami has four names too, but they were all the big Miami
yes.
DPs
Yep.
or big name players. And I believe
The
probably
sound.
most of those probably not even bought in Miami.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
They're probably bought nationwide.
and the fun thing is too, Jordan, is like the Sounders, those dudes are like that, those people are buying into heritage right there. Like they're buying into MLS lore because
I'm
Jordan
so
Morris
happy
is
to see Jordan Morris
yeah,
up top in
I
the
am
top
too.
10. That
I
was
am
so
too.
cool. The only American in the top 10. So I'll take that. Ricky Puig, of course, in the top 7 is great. That's great for the Galaxy because it's probably been a while since they had it there. But it is shocking for Olivier Giroud though, because like I said, he's barely been in the league. He's been in the league the same amount of time as Marco Reus, who's absent from the list here.
Oh
Marco
yeah, I didn't
Reus not
notice that.
moving. Now, I would assume because Giroud was announced way in advance compared
That's a
to
good point. Yeah.
Marco Reus. So I'm assuming next year Marco Reus probably going to be in the top 15. I would say. I wish, you know what? I gotta.
Neymar's gonna be pretty high on this list when they go and buy next year.
Yeah,
when he's playing in Miami, on a rookie contract, his discovery rookie contract.
I went back and I found the top 25 of last year. Okay. And I want to see what the differences are here. Okay. So, Logan, do you remember who was number 2 last year?
Number 2, Carlos
Number
Vela.
2. No. This one may shock you. João Klaus.
Was he really?
It was number 2 in the top 25. Sure. Now, of course, that made sense. St. Louis was top of the West. St. Louis was a new club, so people were probably all the St. Louis fans buying their first kit.
That's
probably
true.
Bought Klaus. That probably helped.
Probably bought their 3rd kit, 4th kit. How many kits they have?
And then out of the top 10, let's take a look on the differences here because Messi was number 1, just like last year. Klaus was number 2 instead of Suarez. Hani Mukhtar was number 3. He's number 8 this year. Driussi was number 4. He fell all the way down to 18. No, he's number 18.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Carlos Velo's number 5. And guess what? He may jump back up again because he signed with LAFC. I don't know how much he's got left in the tank, especially he hasn't played for a bit. And now we have to end up, he'll have to end up, I guess, getting ready for the playoffs. We'll see how he does there. But yeah, Vela back with LAFC. So then it was Carlos Vela at 5. Jordan Morris at 6. Jordan Morris is now 9. So he's consistent. He's consistent in the top 10. Look at that. Number 7 was Raul Ruidiaz last year. He fell all the way down to 24. And that's probably in part of some of the friction with Seattle. And I think he's leaving Seattle. So I would assume that slowed down and people started buying those João Paulo. Last year, number 8 was Thiago Almada from Atlanta. Not on the list. Edard Lowen was number 9 last year. He was number 13 this year, so he's consistent. Christian Roldan was the other Seattle name in the top 10 last year. And then Walker Zimmerman was 11. Chicharito was 12. Busquets 13. Tim Parker 14. Ricky Puig was 15. Brandon Vasquez was 16. Swiderski was 17. John Tolkien was 18. Diego Chara was 19. Bowanga was number 20. He shot all the way up to 3 this year. Joseph Martinez was 21. Carlos Heel was 22. Gazdag was 23, just like he was this year.
Mr. Consistent.
Enzo Capetti was 24, and Shaqiri was 25. Wow. Those two Charlotte names that don't even exist on the team anymore. Maybe you could get... Oh, maybe you should get a Charlotte FC Bryce Young jersey. Oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Sorry.
I was going to say, if you're a Charlotte fan, I wouldn't buy any jerseys because nobody stays. Although Swiderski came back. So, yeah, Swiderski left and came back. And he'll probably leave again, where he's like, I don't want to come. Why did I come back? It's like, nah, we're good.
I thought that was just really interesting list, and comparing it to last year. Seeing the difference.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming next year, number one will be Lionel Messi again.
Nah, Jordan, I think you're wrong. I think it's going to be Cristiano Ronaldo, number 1.
Oh, my God. No, please.
Bring him over.
No thanks. We don't need a circus over here. Okay. So before we dive into some of those results and then we wrap up the show, I have clinching scenarios. Logan.
Ooh.
They just put this out today on MLSsoccer.com. LAFC can clinch a playoff spot if they win versus Austin and Dallas lose or draw at RSL. And they play Austin tomorrow night, Wednesday, September 18th at 10:30 on Apple TV and on FS1. It's also free on Apple TV. So they have to win and Dallas lose or draw. So they have a shot here of clinching already. Rapids can clinch a playoff spot if they win at Kansas City and Dallas lose or draw and Austin lose and draw at LAFC. So pretty much if LAFC clinches and Colorado wins as well, Colorado will clinch. So that's great news for them. That's at 8:30. They play SKC at Children's Mercy Park on Wednesday. RSL can clinch if they win versus Dallas and Austin lose at LAFC. So, again, if LAFC clinch, Colorado has a good shot at clinching, and that would mean almost RSL has a good shot at clinching because RSL just needs to have to win against Dallas and Austin to lose. If Austin loses, LAFC clinches, pretty much. So we could see an actual, those are the only 3 clinch scenarios for Wednesday. We could actually see a domino effect if all 3 of those things happen because they are all in like such a succession of like, okay, LAFC wins and Dallas loses, LAFC and RSL qualify. And Colorado wins and Colorado will qualify too. So like we could see 3 teams clinch tomorrow.
Nothing like a midweek clinch.
Nothing like a Wednesday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern watching LAFC clinch a playoff spot.
Meanwhile, they're probably like, you guys watch baseball, calm down. It's like, yeah, well, we're not West Coast fans, so our baseball
I love the West Coast baseball games. So I'll put them
really?
on at night. Yeah, I'll put them on at night when I'm sitting at home. Yeah.
That's disgusting. Although
I'll be like, Padres, Dodgers, let's put it on.
Jordan's like, what? Oh my gosh, the Oakland Athletics are playing? Hell yeah.
No, the Athletics.
Oh, sorry, the Athletics. That's right. We're no longer Oakland. They left.
So. Yeah, I think Ticketmaster, I think I just read too, changed them from Oakland Athletics to the Athletics already. Yeah.
Man.
Somebody got a notification that their ticket was updated to say the Athletics.
Oh, that's going to get real confusing.
Yeah. You know what they should be? They should be like the Globetrotters and just go around the whole globe.
Yeah, that would be fun. They could come to Orlando. They could come to Maryland. They could come to
any city that doesn't have a team. They just play there for one day or a series at each teams at each new city, and that's what they are that day. There is an elimination scenario as well. SKC can be eliminated if they lose versus Colorado and Portland wins or draws and Minnesota wins, or if they draw versus Colorado and Portland wins and Minnesota wins. So They have 2 scenarios for SKC to be officially eliminated after they made the playoffs last year and beat new rivals St. Louis. They may not make it this year.
I thought you
They
were
may not.
creating a new team called New Rivals. Like, oh, that's a fun name.
Yeah, new rivals.
The New Jersey New Rivals.
That's too many news.
That's fine.
New and improved. New recipe, right? Okay, let's go look at the standings real quick. Oh, no, let's do the schedule first. Okay, so Seattle beat Columbus 4-0 on Saturday, September 7th. This is when we only had 6 games. Huge win for Seattle. New England and St. Louis drew 2-2. Red Bulls drew with SKC 1-1. And DC beat Chicago 2-1. Houston LAFC drew 0-0. And Vancouver and Dallas drew 0-0. Then, this past weekend, we had a full slate of games where Seattle picked up another win, and this time against SKC on Sunday night, 2-0. On Saturday, we had Nashville knock off Atlanta 2-0. Cincy and Columbus. Hell is real? Yes, it was, and it finished 0-0.
That was hell.
Proving that was hell. Yeah. DC and NYCFC drew 1-1. Miami beat Philly 3-1 after Philly took an early lead and gave me so much hope. And then Messi robbed it. 2 goals and an assist as he comes back in the squad. Montreal beat Charlotte 2-1. Orlando beat New England 3-0. That seems to be pretty standard Orlando right now. Toronto beat Austin 2-1. Chicago beat Red Bulls 2-1. Wait, who did Chicago lose to? Chicago lost to DC. Okay. Last week. Okay. And then Houston beat RSL 4-1. What a shock that one was. Minnesota beat St. Louis 3-1. Colorado beat Portland 2-1. LA Galaxy come from behind in El Tráfico from 2-0 down and win 4-2. We'll talk about that in a second. And Vancouver beat San Jose 2-0. So real quick, I have 2 kind of headlines I want to talk about here. El Tráfico and then Miami facing off against Philadelphia. Because a week or 2 ago, we were talking about would Messi come back into the regular season? And we both, I think, agreed we would just bench him. We already clinched the season, clinched the playoffs. We're so close to clinching Supporter Shield. Why not just maybe rest him until at least decision day or whatever, play him a little bit, get him up to speed, and then have a fresh Messi for the playoffs? Well, they didn't do that. And in fact, this time it probably helped them. They end up beating Philadelphia 3-1 off the back of Messi, who comes in. I saw a headline saying he put in an MVP performance. I don't know if that means they're trying to already make that a push now again. We talked about it last week. We were talking about who could be MVP. We mentioned maybe, but he's played so little games, but he has so many good stats, right? It's kind of, what do you value more? But
could this league afford not giving him that?
Yeah, they
think so.
Yeah,
I just feel like so many people be like, "What? Why did Messi not win MVP of that league over there?"
Don't get injured. That easy.
Word has spoken.
No, I mean, because if he wasn't injured and was performing this way, he would have locked it up. He really would. But I don't think you can give it to him.
Do you honestly think the writers will not pick him?
No.
So you think they will pick him?
Yeah, I think they will.
That's so annoying. You're right. I was just playing devil's
When
advocate.
I saw that headline on MLSsoccer.com, I was like, oh, they're building the case already.
Yeah, that's... I was going to ask you that. I was like, I'm going to play devil's advocate because I agree with you. He doesn't deserve it because he's not played as many games. And I don't think he's been I think Luis Suarez deserves it. But we could get into that argument because I think he's been.
But again, we talked about it last week. It'd be one of Miami because every time it's a Supporter Shield, maybe this year would be different.
That's true.
If it's between Messi and Suarez, they're going to give it to Messi because he's broken records on goal contributions in certain games. Like, I think that is I think there is something to that. He just broke a record this time with how many goal contributions he's had. So I could see a case. I can see a case. I just don't know if I would do it if I had a vote.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But were you shocked that he was playing? Were you shocked he played?
Yes, I was actually shocked.
Me too. Yeah. I texted my friend Dave, who's a Messi fan. I was like, I'm surprised he's playing.
Especially that long. 90 minute. Like, Tata, man, he'll wear you out. Like, he's known for that. He's known for playing players whenever they're ready, and he's been better. They said in Miami, but there's times where I think he lets the players talk him into. Because I mean, Jordan, if Messi goes down one more time, I mean, we could say that, but I'm probably wrong again. I was just about to say he could go down and this team would be screwed, but we've seen that they can play
They
without it.
carried on
Yeah,
without him
we can see
pretty
that
okay.
they're pretty damn
Yeah,
good. So
yeah.
I don't think there's anybody in this league that can beat them on a good night. So uh,
So you have them as favorites to win the whole thing then?
yeah, I think it's an easy
If they
pick.
play like this, yeah. I mean, they went down 1-0 early and they come back and, he scored 2 goals in like 30 seconds and assisted to
Ima-
Suarez.
Imagine those two Jordan playing at that high intensity at a playoff game. Like that, like they're going
They
after it, like they've gone after Champions League.
exactly. They've done it in Champions
Like no
League.
thanks.
They know what it takes. Yeah,
I can't
it's a
wait.
real possibility.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Real possibility. Okay. And then let's talk about El Trafico. Because before I could even have a chance to turn it on, it was
Oh
2
yeah,
0 LAFC. 4 minutes in and 15 minutes in. Goals for LAFC, Bogus and Boanga. And then we had they score in the 53rd minute, Joveljic. 55th minute, Cirillo. What a great goal that was. 67th minute, Joveljic again. Now they have the lead. 3-2. They scored 3 goals in 14 minutes in the second half. And then Ricky Puig puts it away in the 86th minute after O'Brien gets a red card in the 79th. And that was all she wrote. Now this took some. This was at StubHub Center or whatever they call it now, right? Is that what they still call it? Dignity
LA?
Health
Dignity
Park.
Health. Yeah.
Sorry. Dignity Health Sports Park. This was in Carson.
Probably BMO Field. All of them are BMO Field.
Yeah, they're all BMO now. The resolve it takes to come from behind against your rivals in a Classico or a Trafico, and it's 15 minutes in, it's already 2-0. You come back from behind, make it 2-2 in a span of 2 minutes, 53rd and 55th minute. And then being able to push on and get the 67th minute goal through Joveljic. Ricky Puig, who had a goal and 2 assists in this game. Marco Royce, who was credited for 2 assists as well, because they do the secondary assists, so he's got one of those on the Joveljic goal. Is just, again, incredible resolve from LA Galaxy, and they've pretty much assured Logan that they will finish top of the West. They have a 7-point lead on LAFC. Yes, LAFC have two games in hand, but this was LAFC's moment to kind of put the boot on the neck and say, you're going to have to go through us. We're not fading. And they didn't do it.
Yeah, that was a huge opportunity miss. Like you said, this pretty much locks up the Western Conference for LA Galaxy. The way LAFC's been playing too, like honestly, Jordan, like the Rapids are going to be sniffing like really close to that line that they're at too. So, like Colorado's been one of the
and
best
RSL.
teams.
They both have
Yeah.
47 points.
Right.
One behind LAFC. Now, of course, LAFC has 1 game in hand of those 2 teams.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a lot closer than we thought. Even Seattle's caught up. Seattle's got 46 points.
Yeah.
They're in 5th place.
And they've got a really easy
top 4.
schedule to end too. Seattle.
Remember, Seattle was almost bottom at some point earlier this season. And people are like, what's going on there? Fire Smetzer is what people were saying.
Yeah. Because they've got 3 games at home against San Jose, Houston, and Portland. I think they win those 3. Then they play a Vancouver team who has been playing better in Colorado. Those are tough games. But I think they've got a favorable schedule. Whereas you look at a team like LAFC, they got to go at Dallas, at Cincinnati, against St. Louis, at SKC, at Vancouver. Those are all tough places to play. That's 4 away games. It's really tough to win in this league on the road. So I wonder that too. I mean, I kind of I'll take back some of that. But as far as Seattle having an easy schedule, but definitely easier. It's not, it's not like they're going up against the Galaxy a ton. But
LAFC has not won a game in the league since before Leagues Cups.
right,
They beat Seattle on 7/21
yeah,
at Seattle 3-0.
yeah.
Since then, they've not won. Now, of course, it's only been 3 games. They lost to Houston and drew with Houston and lost to LA. But still, I would have never believed that stat if you had told me that.
But I mean, LAFC, like I said, LAFC's more in trouble, I think, of losing even further ground than what they've lost. Like I
Yeah,
think
because Colorado has what? SKC,
yeah,
Toronto,
and they've been
Minnesota. That's 3 chances for wins
yeah.
there.
And they've
And
been
then
one
they
of the best
face.
teams in MLS. Colorado has per points per
Then
game.
they will have Galaxy and Seattle, but then they'll have Austin.
Yeah, it's gonna get the Western Conference is getting really heated because like teams got hot all of a sudden in the Western
They did.
Conference.
They did.
Like all of a sudden, all of them started playing well. Where the Eastern Conference, they came out of the gates hot, but now they've kind of cooled off. Like I would say, the Eastern Conference, there's not many teams up there that I'd be like, oh man, they're going to run
Yeah.
through it. Besides,
Well, we
Miami.
talked about at the beginning of the year that the Eastern Conference was better.
Right?
Look at the standings now.
Yeah,
You have Minnesota. Miami was 62. Cincy was 52. Columbus with 50. New York Red Bulls have 43 points.
yeah. It's
okay.
bad. Yeah,
To get 43 points would put you in 8th place in the West.
a wild card game.
Yeah.
But they've got
because
home
guess
field.
what? You have Galaxy with 55,
Yes.
LAFC with 48, Colorado with 47, RSL with 47, Seattle with 46, Vancouver with 45, Houston with 44.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. Oh, teams have been awful in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Orlando's surging. The Red Bull have not been good. NYCFC have been awful.
Orlando has a shot at top 4.
Yeah, Charlotte is split. They actually have them favored, I think, to get a 4th spot. Charlotte's been awful. Toronto's been not great. DC's kind of slipped. So I don't know if the Union can make another push. I don't know.
I think they said Philly has one, they're the best team with the goal differential that's not in a playoff spot.
Yeah, well, that's good then.
But also, I think they said for XG that they had a really high XG for not being in a playoff spot too. So not great for Philly. I don't think they're going to make it. Honestly, I don't think so. Now, I was positive, but now there's only 6 games left.
Yeah,
they need 3 points to get to a wild card. They need 8 points to get to a non-wild card game. I don't think they're getting in. And if they do, it'll be a wild card, and they probably get bounced in the first game at this rate.
All right. Well, question for you. Looking at the too early predictions by Logan and Jordan. If you had to pick, let's go. If you had to pick the playoffs right now, what are your playoffs looking like?
What teams finish in the playoffs?
Which teams are in the playoffs?
I think for the West, I said these are the teams, and I still believe that. I can't see Dallas catching Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Minnesota up in the West is the teams.
Yeah.
I could see the way Seattle's been playing, I could see them taking a top 4 spot. I wouldn't be shocked if they do. They could actually jump all the way up to 2nd place with a win. That's wild after how bad they were to start the season.
And
Seattle did not have a win until April 7th.
Yeah.
Okay. They didn't have their 2nd win until April 30th. And now they might get 2nd place in the West. I do think Galaxy will hold on to the 1 spot. I actually do think LAFC will finish in 2nd. It's, RSL losing that bad that they did the other night. That kind of shocked me a bit. That's who I could probably see Seattle overcoming is RSL. I just feel like they're not in in their best form. I mean, they haven't won back-to-back games since July when they won July 4th and July 7th. Since then, it's been loss, draw, loss, win against New England, loss against Houston. They do have a kind of more manageable schedule at the end of the day, but I'm just not sure. like their form was so much better at the beginning of the season when they were at one point the best team in the league on points per game, right? When they beat Philly, they were like on pace to be the best team in the league. That's kind of fallen apart since then. They won 3 in a row then. Then they had an unbeaten streak all the way up until June 23rd. They had not lost since March 2nd. All right. So they went like 3 months without losing a game. But since then, they've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. So I could see that being the team that slips out and Seattle kind of slip in. But I do think for the West, these are the teams. I do think that. For the East, this is the tough one for me. I'm kind of calling it on Philly. I'm going to call it on Atlanta as well. Again, I would not be shocked if these 9 are the 9. I think DC can slip in there. They have a player like Benteke who's scoring goals, leading the Golden Boot race with 19. I could see them staying in. But yeah, I think if you would ask me last week, Philly, I would have given the edge to a bit here. But I just don't know if Philly can do it. They have to face NYCFC. They have to face DC. They have to face Atlanta. They have to face Orlando, Columbus, Cincinnati. Columbus and Cincinnati are going to be tough games. Orlando's now a tough game. Atlanta and DC, at least they'll be playing teams in their range, Philadelphia. So they could conceivably, those are 6-point swings because you're keeping them down while you're winning or vice versa. NYCFC is always a tough game with Philly. So I'm kind of almost ready to say, again, these 9 are probably the 9. I can't see a Montreal making a run or a Chicago making a run or a Nashville making a run. And I think New England won't make a run. So that's where I'm kind of at with the East.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, looking at all those points, the only one that I would really consider is Atlanta, maybe. But again, like you said, that'd be a DC's demise and their own fault if they've slipped. So I think you're right. I think we're 2 games are going to be played this week on Wednesday and Saturday, Sunday, whatever it might be. Jordan, there's going to be teams with like 3 games left, so that's wild. We're going to have teams,
and we still have a month.
Right.
We still have a month. Like they have to get to a point where they can sort this better.
Yeah. 30 teams.
But let's go ahead and preview what we got. We got a lot of games on Wednesday and a lot of games on Saturday. So I'm going to read through them here. We got a rivalry game on tomorrow at 7:30. Atlanta and Miami will face off. So that'll hurt Atlanta's chances as well. New England, Montreal at 7:30. NYCFC, Philly, Toronto, Columbus, Orlando, and Charlotte at 8:15. Free on Apple TV, and it's also on FS1. At 8:30, we have Houston, Vancouver, SKC, Colorado, Minnesota, Cincinnati, Nashville, and Chicago. Then at 9:30, RSL, Dallas. Then at 10:30, LAFC and Austin. Like I said before, that's free on Apple TV and on FS1. Portland and LA Galaxy at 10:30, and Seattle, San Jose at 10:30. This is a chance for Seattle to really get another 3 points and really put pressure on the rest of those teams in the top of the West because they can jump up to second. Then on Saturday, the 21st, we have NYCFC and Miami at 2 o'clock at Yankee Stadium. 4 o'clock game, Charlotte and New England. All eyes will be on that. 7:30, Columbus, Orlando, Montreal, Chicago, New York Red Bulls, Atlanta. Then at 8:30, we have Austin and Houston, Dallas and LAFC, SKC, Minnesota, Nashville, Cincinnati. And then at 9:30, free on Apple TV, Colorado, Toronto, RSL, Portland. 10:30, we have Galaxy, Vancouver, San Jose, and St. Louis. And then Sunday, September 22nd at 6:15 p.m., Philadelphia Union will host DC United free on Apple TV and on FS1. Then on Wednesday, September 25th, we'll talk about it again there, but we have Campeones Cup, Columbus Crew and Club America battling it out since both teams won their cups of MLS Cup and Liga MX. The Campeones Cup is going to be hosted at lower.com field. Chance for Columbus to win another trophy. Vancouver and Toronto will face off in the Canadian Championship final at 10 o'clock. And then at 10:30, LAFC and SKC in the US Open Cup, free on Apple TV. So Wednesday, September 25th, we got 3 finals going on. That should be a lot of fun.
Wild, but fun.
Yes. And then, like you said, we have games on the 28th. We have games on the 2nd. Games on the 5th. Games on the 6th. Then there's a international window on the 12th and 13th where teams that are behind on games will make up some games. There's 2 games during that window. And then the 19th is Decision Day with games at 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock on Decision Day, Saturday, October 19th. And we will talk all about that then, with then the playoffs taking place shortly after. We got a long stretch again with the playoffs because of that best of 3. So that's going to last until November sometime.
We'll see you guys on Christmas when we talk about the MLS Cup final.
All right, Logan, anything else before we head out of here?
I am so excited for U.S. men's national team, Jordan. Probably the most excited I've ever been for the prospects of this team. And we're getting really close to the end. MLS Cup. It's going to be exciting. So tune in. A lot of exciting things happening over the next month or so.
Yeah. We'll be here talking all that stuff as we'll be covering our 4th MLS Cup, 5th MLS Cup final. I started in 2020, 21, 22, 23.
Your 5th, my 4th.
My 5th MLS Cup final that we'll be talking about here on the podcast. That's insane. 4 years coming up in October from when this thing launched, I believe. And it's crazy that we are. This is the longest we've ever done a podcast. Yep. This is amazing. This is.
And with that, on that note, Jordan, we're gonna have to. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
Jordan, this is our last episode.
Yeah.
No,
we will not be back next week.
This is wild. I can't wait to see how many episodes we can get through in life.
Yeah, just in life in general.
Just be doing this one day, and Jordan will croak because he's way older than I am. Just when he's 90 something, just
2 years.
Jordan, did you hear that? Jordan, did you hear that? No, Jordan, are you alive?
Welcome to episode 13,000 of the Stateside Soccer Show, as we're talking about the 2100 World Cup. Yeah. Okay. That'll wrap us up at Stateside Show on all of our social medias. Make sure you send us your thoughts on there, or you can comment or like and subscribe to us here on the channel. Make sure that you comment your thoughts on Pochettino. Was it the right hire? Are you excited? And tell us, did you buy an MLS jersey this year? And if so, who was it? Was it somebody in the top 25, or do you have some obscure non-top 25 MLS player that you have been repping all season long? Let us know. Have a great rest of your week. We'll catch you next time.